Hello, everybody. Thank you for coming out tonight. My name is Robert DeMille. I'm the mayor of the Village of West Haverstraw, and I want to thank Greg Julian for putting this event together tonight. Just want to introduce a couple of dignitaries before we get started. We have here, where's Danielle from Assembly Scoops' office? We have our supervisor, Howard Phillips, who's going to speak later on tonight. Also from the town, I know Vinnie Gamboli, councilman, is here. Mayor Mike Kohut was here. He had another engagement he had to go to. Came down, said hello. He's sorry he had to leave early. Mayor Mike Kohut. We also have from the Village of Haverstraw, Emily Dominguez. Emily's here. I think she's going to be speaking later on too tonight. I'm sorry. From the Village of West Haverstraw, I have Bob LeGros and trustees Ralph Kirschel. I think I covered the dignitaries that are here. I'm sorry, we have our former mayor, John Raimondo, here. All right, and I just want to, before I turn over the mic to Greg, just want to as far as the Village of West Haverstraw on August 25th, 2015, passed a board resolution which expressed a strong opposition against no proposed new energy facility in Stony Point. Listen, we just don't feel, with all the surroundings around it and where it's located and the impacts upon all of North Rockland, it's worth the price tag that it comes with. Over 400 trucks and so on and so forth. But I'm gonna let everybody else speak about that. Again, thank you for coming out. All right, and Greg, who am I passing on to?
Okay, I'm gonna do my Phil Donahue impersonation during the evening. We have another dignitary walking in, Vince Monti, a councilman from Stony Point.
I'm Pete Riley, just to introduce myself. I'm a citizen and a neighbor in Stony Point. I live in Tompkins Cove. And like you, I learned about this. I haven't been real involved with local politics, and I'm still not involved with local politics. But this is a local issue that caught my attention. And I'm going to show you a little slideshow here, which will kind of illuminate why I got involved and why I believe we should all be involved. First, we're looking at... If you're not familiar where this project is going, this little map will show you. Right behind ShopRite in the old K-Free site. You can see that it's near ShopRite, the West Haverstraw Elementary School, Ellen Hayes Hospital, and the Senior Citizen Center, all within 1,500 feet of this proposed facility. What you're going to see now is the actual answers from the Department of Environmental Conservation questionnaire that they gave the company to answer when they first applied for permits. So here's just a couple of the questions and some of the answers. Impact on human health. Will it have impact? Yes. From exposure to new or existing sorts of contaminants. That's what the company answered. Will it have impact on noise, odor, and light? Increase in noise, odors, and outdoor lighting? Yes. Will it have impact on surface water? It may affect the wetlands. Yes. Will it have an impact on groundwater? Yes, it has potential to introduce contaminants to groundwater. The yes is the company's yes. Impact on flooding. It's in development in a floodplain. Yes. Will it have impact on open space and recreation? It will cause a loss of recreational opportunities and reduction of open space? Yes. And consistency with community plans. Is it consistent or not? And with adopted land use plans? The answer the company gave is yes. What about transportation? Proposed action may result in a change to existing transportation systems? Yes. Impact on air may include a state regulator air emission source? Yes. impact on historic and archaeological resources, is adjacent to a historical archaeological resource? Yes. So that's all their preliminary responses to the questionnaire that they were given. The rest of what you're going to see is their actual application and their information that they provided to the Department of Environmental Conservation. The big one, the one you've heard a few people talking about, is they're proposing that 4,500 tons of municipal solid waste, we suppose from New York City, will be coming to New York, to Stony Point through Haverstraw and West Haverstraw every day. 4,500 tons of garbage. That's 1.2 million tons of garbage a year. And with that, they will be producing 400 tons of slag ash that will be trucked off the site to other facilities. This 4,500 tons of garbage that's being transported on public roads will take between 200 to 300 to 400 garbage trucks, large tractor trailer trucks on 9W every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. That's tractor trailers in, tractor trailers out, and also along with that, the fuel that they make, along with the slag ash, all has to be transported out. In terms of the environment, they're looking, this is all from their DEC filing, 10.5 tons of hazardous air pollutants will be emitted each year, and many of these pollutants, which are documented in the document, which we're not putting up here tonight, are hazardous to health. 69,000 tons of carbon dioxide will be reduced every year, and even more importantly, 69 tons of nitrous oxide will be produced. Now, it says here from the EPA website that nitrous oxide stay in the atmosphere for an average of 114 years, and the impact of 1 pound of nitrous oxide is almost 300 times that of carbon dioxide. The plant will use 1.2 million gallons of water per day. Now, some of this water is going to be wastewater from the Stony Point sewage plant. Some will be coming from freshwater creeks, wetlands, and new wells that are drilled. They also use the entire site being located in a floodwater plain. Smokestacks and buildings will be visible from the Hudson River, Stony Point, and Haverstraw. We just did a rendering, Jerry did a nice rendering of what it possibly could look like where ShopRite is today. You'll be able to see it from anywhere on the river, in Haverstraw, and in Stony Point, smokestacks. The rezoning will result in the loss of waterfront development for the future. So they've already rezoned some of these parcels to heavy industrial, and they call it green heavy industrial, but it's heavy industrial. So our concerns, we have a lot of concerns. Those are the facts. So that all is coming from the DEC site. There's no interpretation here. That's what they've given to the state government. Our concerns range from health, which we talked about, to things like safety. Safety is within 1,500 feet of these facilities. The West Haverstraw Elementary School, they're going to be storing bulk storage of diesel and dangerous chemicals. There's environmental concerns, which we've talked about, quality of life concerns, consistency with our community plans. This one bothers me. They're not only rezoning the spots behind ShopRite, but they're rezoning the Gibson site, they're rezoning the Lubbock site, and they're rezoning the Tilcon site to heavy industrial. So all the waterfront in Stony Point will be lost for quite a while to heavy industry and not developed in any other way. The track record of New Planet Energy isn't the greatest. If you don't know about this company, They opened a gasification plant in Vero Beach, Florida a few years ago, and it ended up being a disaster. They left Vero Beach, Florida in 2016 without any product really being produced. They did produce some, but not enough to really make it a go. What was produced were empty buildings and angry residents. What else? Hydrogen cyanide. Hydrogen cyanide is banned as a chemical warfare agent. And the most important route of poisoning is through inhalation. This is what they actually produced and why they had to shut it down. We also have a little concern about the process. The process of bringing this in. There was a major meeting 2 or 3 years ago. I have to be honest, I didn't go. I wasn't paying attention. And that was the last major meeting with the public. Over the last 2 or 3 years, this has been moving forward through different channels, and it's the biggest kept secret in North Rockland. This is the first meeting where we've had people come out to really learn about what this is all about. There's something this big, whether you're for it or against it, it should be talked about because it's going to be with us for a long time to come. And the other thing is the traffic study. There's supposedly a traffic study that was presented at a planning board meeting. Greg Julian has tried to foil to get to see what this traffic study was. The town doesn't have it. No one can produce it. And we have a problem with that kind of a process where traffic is going to be impacted greatly. And finally, the project is being split into 2 parts. And we believe that's a strategy. A first part, which is a small recycling part, which gets the foot in the door to open the door to the larger project. And to defer, to say, well, we'll see. But we know what's going to happen once they get that first project in. So, that's really the facts behind it and an outline of our concerns, and I'll turn it over to Greg.
We're going to ask you to hold your questions. We're not going to, it's not all going to come at you. You're going to have plenty of time to answer, ask questions, and give your opinion whether you're for it or against it. But right now, I want to turn this over to our supervisor of Haverstraw.
Thank you, Greg, and thank you everyone for coming out tonight. I really do appreciate it. I think all of us do, and all the elected officials. When this process was first proposed, we were very skeptical. Does everybody here remember what the K-Freeze plant was like? Okay. Do you know what they produced there? I know John Raimondo over here did because he was a Vietnam veteran. They produced Agent Orange at K-Freeze. A number of men that worked here from North Rockland worked at K-Freeze. They went and really in front of the DEC and told the stories how the unused chemicals would be taken in 50-gallon drums and poured out the back of the property. We had numerous people come down with cancer. When they first remediated the site, it was the worst Superfund site other than, what is the one up, the Love Canal. When they went to remediate it, they designated an area. After they remediated that, they allowed the new company to come in and excavate. So sure enough, the gentleman is in there excavating it. All of a sudden, he digs up purple soil. They stopped immediately. Another 5 acres was designated. This has a history of just being one of the worst sites in the world. Now keep in mind, when this was first brought to our attention, they came, they knocked on our doors, they sat down with us. We were extremely skeptical. We said, well, how many tons a day? First they began with 3,000 tons a day. So we said, well, what does that mean in trucks? They said, oh, it could mean somewhere around 300 trucks a day. We said, fine. A little later on, we started asking for more information. The information came so slowly, and it really wasn't accurate. We sat down with them a second time. They told us, well, we're now talking about 4,000 tons a day of New York City garbage. And we kept saying to them, where in the world does this process exist where you can do 4,000 tons, incinerate it, produce a biofuel, and then, truck it out of here? They couldn't show us anywhere. They said, we believe there's a place up in Canada that it's successful in. So we said, give us the information. Never gave us any information. They came back again. We said, well, we now have a plant in Vero Beach, Florida. We said, well, what is that plant like? Very little information, so we went and did our own study. Vero Beach was a pilot program. It was less than 200 tons a day. Less than 200 tons a day. Less than 4% was municipal waste. The rest of it was vegetative waste. Florida has a growing season 12 months out of the year. Vegetative waste is completely different than municipal waste. It disintegrates at different temperatures, it burns at different levels, but even still, they couldn't make that plant work. And it's a big scandal in Florida because they received over $100 million in federal and state grants, and they had nothing to show for it. When we finally got the documents, only because they submitted them to the DEC, we had our attorney, Steve Silverberg. I don't know if anybody knows him. He's one of the top attorneys, environmental and land use attorneys in the state. So he started digging through the information. So all of a sudden, the 4,000 tons now was up to 4,800 tons. Now it's back down to 4,500 tons. But what you need to know is the process itself can only take in 4,000 tons a day. That means there's at least 500 tons of garbage a day that they're going to leave sitting on the floor somewhere. To give you an idea, when we operated a sanitary landfill and we took in the town of Haverstraw and the town of Stony Point, we would get on an average day 150 tons of garbage. People don't realize what 4,500 to 4,800 tons a day is. It's a quasi-fresh kills landfill. That's what we're looking at. Have you been down on 9W between 3 in the afternoon to 6 o'clock? It's like a parking lot at times. These people were going to be taking in trucks down 9W, 18-wheelers. If you talk to anybody in the business, and I'm chair of the Rockland County Solid Waste Authority, you know you never get a full load in a truck. They're compacting the garbage down, and the only thing transfer stations want to do is get those trucks out of the transfer station. So you're easily talking 400 trucks, one way, 400 the other. Then you have the recycling end of it. Then you have the bioproduct end of it. None of this makes sense at this site, especially since it's going to be up against minority neighborhoods. And that's another thing that we really got very upset about. Two things you should know. The town of Stony Point prohibited incineration in their code. When we challenged that, they called a moratorium, and during the moratorium, they removed the prohibition of incineration. But they're also saying that it's not incineration. If you take municipal waste and reduce it to ash, I don't know how it's not incineration. So these are the things that you should know. We had a rash of cancer at the West Haverstraw Elementary School back in the 1990s. And a lot of us believe it could be attributed to what happened at the K-Freeze site. You have an elementary school there, you have a senior citizen complex. You see on that photo, and I think that's a great photo of showing it behind ShopRite, they are proposing not one stack, but multiple stacks. And these stacks are not very high. So whatever goes up in the air is going to come down in the same close proximity. Now, you know the schools and the senior citizen complex have been a very big intake fans. So does ShopRite, the new one that's built there, but so does Helen Hayes Hospital. That's another vital part of our community. This is inappropriate. It doesn't need to be here, and it shouldn't be here in our backyards. Lastly, I just want you to know, we have seen a complete metamorphosis of uses along the Hudson River, and I think we've done an excellent job. We donated 60 acres of wetlands, which abuts this site, to the state, so it'll forever remain wetlands. We built a beautiful kayak and canoe launch so that residents could go in and really investigate and have an enjoyment of looking at what the wetlands are and the indigenous birds and species of this area. We took a sanitary landfill next to this site and we've made it a beautiful park. As a matter of fact, Bruce Leach is here tonight with the Hudson Valley Radio Control. We made it an airfield. It's really extraordinary. And we've had the Sierra Club up there in the wintertime with the Eagles. But from that, we took a beautiful waste site and turned it into a county park, the Hudson Bay Park. We've got Peck's Pond right here in West Havistra. They've done a great job with that bowline. The whole shoreline we have changed. This goes back 75 years ago. This doesn't exist today. It doesn't match the uses today. Our future is in what we do along that Hudson River shore. We're extremely proud of the Havistra Marina. It's like one of the largest marinas on the East Coast. And we have hundreds, probably thousands of people that come to Havistra every year in North Rockland to view the Hudson River, to take part of the recreation of the Hudson River. Take a look at what we've done. You will agree with us that this use is completely inappropriate. And please, remember, the next time you're on 9W, think about having 400 18-wheelers coming one way and 400 going the other way. And you're going to get just as upset as we have been about this application. Thank you.
To put a little specificity in the cancer cluster at West Havistra, a sister school was built in Thiels. Same school, same design, same cadre of teachers. By 1993, in one of the 32 cases of cancer were registered at West Havistra Elementary, 2 cases of cancer at Thiels. We tried extremely hard to convince people that there were a cancer cluster. But again, the problem with this is that the DEC has never, ever thoroughly tested that site. And it's the epitome of power against the people, whether it was Noble Dynamite or K-Freeze or the other owners, Insulex. It's very hard for us to get people to understand that we are living here and getting the impact of this. And one of the most important impacts is going to take place in Havistra. And Emily, I want you to, speak from the heart and tell us what you think.
Good evening, everyone. We're very proud of what we've accomplished in the village of Havistra. We've got thriving businesses, new businesses coming in, an entire redevelopment of our downtown. And the impact of having all these trucks will hurt all of our small businesses, just not in the village of Havistra, but all through North Rockland. So we really need to come together, and this is going to be an incredible injustice for us if this happens, because the businesses will not be able to survive. Who's going to come down shopping? Who's going to come eat to these businesses? Because they're not going to be able to. With the smell, the trucks, the businesses will go out of business. Jobs will be lost, and that will hurt us. And in long term, it will hurt home value, everything. It's such a very impactful loss that we will have. We have to stick together and make sure that we say no. We really, really need to do this, because you know what? We thrive on small businesses and medium-sized in North Rockland. We are an incredible community, and for this project, we really have to say no. Thank you.
The specific number of L1 and L2 lots in Stony Point that really represents small business people, entrepreneurs who want to make something of their American dream. 39 of these lots, and it's not that many lots, there's only about a dozen other lots that are out there. They're going to be combined into the heavy industrial sites, and we'll begin to explain what we think is going on here. But this is not a pro-business proposal. This is a pro-corporation proposal, and it's a limited liability company, and it's backed by hedge fund people. That's what's coming into Stony Point.
Hi folks, I'm Mike Kohut. I'm the mayor of the Village of Haverstraw. Echoing what other folks have said here, but expanding a little bit about the development along the Hudson River and how we've gone from industrial to other things, recreation and residential. As you know, we have the Harbor of Haverstraw down on our waterfront now with 500 homes down there. We have another development in the offing at some point at the Chair Factory site because everyone wants to be by the Hudson River. Well, they don't want to be by the Hudson River when it's industrial. We've been through that phase. We've done that. In Stony Point, they have a residential project planned not too far north of this, down by the marinas in Stony Point. People are not going to want to go to those if they're going to be facing this obstacle of this garbage to energy plant. It's just not, as Howard said, it's not the right time, it's not the right place, because we've gone far beyond the time when industry belonged on the shores of the Hudson River. I think there's a lot better places that this could be located where the traffic can be handled because you're on a major highway, you're on the thruway, you're on 287, you're on 84, and the trucks are entering and exiting, and the plant is right there in the middle of nowhere, hopefully, if it even works. We don't know that the technology is even viable. We've never seen it in any active plant that they can show us, that they can take us to. What I do know, and what you do know, and I'll give you one little snippet, when they were doing that road work on 9W down by Short Clove this past year, and if anybody sat in that traffic at all during those several months that was going on, 9W was getting worse. Do you want to add 400 trucks each way? And they can tell you what they want, that they're going to come in the middle of the night, that they're going to whatever. We know that more 18-wheel trucks will be coming down that road, and you will be the one stuck behind that garbage truck at the red light at Short Clove, the red light at New Main Street, the red light at West Side Avenue, the red light at Gurney Avenue. And you know you get stuck at all those red lights. And who wants to sit on a July day or an August day behind those trucks? Not me, and not you, I don't think. So I'm not going to expound on the technology. The technology may work, but it's not the right place and it's not the right time.
I'm going to change the little bit of a difference here. We've heard government officials, and a lot of times there seems to be a little bit of antagonism between government officials and environmental groups because, you know, we're all green people and these people are just really practical people trying to make the towns work. But I want to bring up three people and just give you a little bit of, give them an opportunity of saying to you, we've combined the most significant environmental groups in the county and some really outstanding people. I just want to give them the opportunity of talking about what they see and moreover talking about their successes, because things like this can be stopped, because this is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like, and we are going to make democracy work in Stony Point. All right. Peg doesn't like to, you gotta love this woman because she doesn't like to talk in front of big crowds. But I have to tell you, this woman has won a national EPA award for her activism, and we need to congratulate her.
Okay, it was a regional EPA award. I just want to be correct about that. No, I don't love to talk to crowds, and please forgive me, but I'm going to have to use written comments. So I'm the leader of Rockland Sierra Club, and Rockland Sierra Club is opposing this project because of its environmental impacts. But I have to say, it really takes the heart out of me when I think about the way in which it would change the character of this community. I was listening to Howie Phillips' comments and Mike Cohut's comments, so totally on the mark. This is really a choice. Do you want to re-industrialize the waterfront, or do you want to open it up for enjoyment and for just really getting down to the waterfront and enjoying the Hudson River and bringing in the kind of development that will enhance your community? Others have talked about the local impacts, so I'm going to skip over those except to try to focus on the environmental impacts. The first gentleman I walked in while he was speaking, he was talking about some of the emissions from the plant itself, and I think he left out one that's very important, and that is 10.5 tons of hazardous waste pollutants. So we're going to have to wait for the environmental impact statement to know more about that, but that's what was in their environmental assessment form in 2015. There's the emissions, obviously, from these huge trucks going up and down 9W. As people have mentioned, there are more trucks that I don't know the number of that will take out the solid waste, will take out the fuel. There will also be the trucks, the emissions from trucks that will be idling online at the plant, and you can really count on that. There's also the issue of the proposed site. This is basically a chemical refinery in a high-risk floodplain, which will be exposed to even more flooding as sea level continues to rise. Remember after Hurricane Harvey, do you remember the chemical plant that was flooded and blew up? Remember that? And exposed all of the surrounding community to chemical emissions. And similarly, after Hurricane Katrina, there was a problem with flooding from of toxins. That's that would expose the surrounding community and the river. We also see this as a foothold for technology that could be an absolute gold mine for companies like this, but would take us as a society entirely in the wrong direction on fossil fuels and waste policy. The most important feedstock for this plant is disposable, non-recyclable plastic, which is produced from fossil fuels. This plastic is so important because it contains high energy content that would be needed for the fuels. The plant would produce diesel fuel for trucks, or sometimes they're saying for jet fuel. Those trucks will therefore continue to emit greenhouse gas emissions at a time when we really need to move away as quickly as possible from fossil fuels. We can no longer afford to be building new fossil fuel infrastructure that will be built for the next 40 years. We need to shut down fossil fuels now. What a sustainable future would really look like, in addition to mass transit where appropriate, is electric vehicles powered by energy that's from renewable energy. We're not there yet, but the transition is actually happening. It's happening remarkably quickly. A recent article in The Economist, which is not exactly a radical left-wing publication, was titled "The Death of the Internal Combustion Engine." In fact, European countries are already beginning to pass bans on sale of gasoline and diesel-fueled cars and trucks. France and Britain are discussing bans on the sale of all gasoline and diesel cars by 2040. Germany has passed a resolution to ban internal combustion engines by 2030. Here in the US, UPS and FedEx are already beginning to convert their fleets to electric trucks. So essentially, what that means is that this project would be building fuel for a technology that is already on its way out. I know it doesn't feel like it right now, but you can see it on the horizon in Europe. Stony Point doesn't need another dead-end project. Secondly, this plant would depend on disposable plastic at a time when we should be banning disposable plastic. Some American cities are banning plastic straws. Scotland is doing so by 2019. Okay, the lead engineer from the plant said to me out in a conversation in the parking lot, and he said, "Oh, there will always be disposable straws and disposable lids and takeout containers." No, actually, they're already on their way out too. The EU is working on a plan to ban all disposable plastics by 2030. Taiwan is banning all single-use plastics. Once this plant is built, it will need disposable plastics, and it will become an entrenched industry that lobbies against these bans in the United States. So essentially, once again, New Planet proposes to build for the technologies of the past and not the future. Okay, Stony Point needs tax income. Why not take that same brownfield and use it for a solar farm or wind turbines on the model of Clarkstown Solar Field on the landfill? In fact, make it into a community solar project that will take Stony Point to the future and that will actually save residents money. Because community solar saves residents money. Finally, Greg asked me to say just a few words about winning a battle like this. I really do want to keep it short. As many of you know, Sierra Club is one of the local groups in the lead in the battle against Suez's desalination proposal. I was also one of the co-founders of the Rockland Water Coalition. Suez is a huge multinational corporation, the second largest water company in the world. I won't lie to you, it was not easy, but it was an amazing and empowering experience. Our movement, just really briefly, our movement took off when we did four things. Mobilize a vocal grassroots opposition. That's what you're doing right here tonight. At the same time, we reached out to involve environmental professional groups and elected officials. You can't do it without both. Took it to Albany because we learned that DEC decisions are heavily influenced, if not controlled, by the governor. Finally, fundraised and hired experts. All four of those things were essential. Some of them aren't so much fun, but they're all necessary. I want to remind you of two other recent major victories. Alan Levin recently asked a bunch of us to remember some of the victories that grassroots activists have won. And I'd list two of them: getting GE to dredge PCBs in the Hudson and closing Indian Point. Didn't those two both look impossible before we did it? So my message is, this is a battle for the quality of your life here, but the battle has larger implications and it can be done. And as somebody said to me when we won the desal battle, just remember in the David and Goliath story, it was actually David that won. We forget that sometimes.
Helen Hurley, can you come up, please? This young woman almost single-handedly started a grassroots movement in Pearl River, and she can teach us all a lot about how to organize. So I just want to acknowledge her.
Thank you, Greg. Hi, everyone. How is everybody? This is a great turnout for a grassroots movement. And Greg, congratulations. It's a really great thank you to all the elected officials for showing up. It's really important to have the elected officials here today. My name is Heather Hurley, and I live in Pearl River. And I started a grassroots movement called the Stop Analtech Movement in Pearl River. We formed because there was an experimental company that wanted to produce benzene, one of the most toxic substances, in an experimental, never done before process in the middle of a residential area between Pearl River and Nanuet on the Pfizer campus. As Peggy has said before, it is not an easy battle. We started with a couple of people in a core group from Pearl River and Nanuet, went to town board meetings, went to FOIL DEC documents, get to the bottom of how the company had wound up in Pearl River and how they were planning to expand. It was an over 2-year process of people showing up to meetings and really advocating for the community, for the health of the community. And again, it was a project that we also felt that Pearl River and Nanuet did not need in their backyards to produce this very toxic substance. So I don't want to take up too much time, but if anybody wants to ask any questions, I'll be here later on as well. And one thing that I would encourage everybody to do is to keep showing up. And everyone in this room, I hope, will make a pledge to bring at least one other person to the next meeting, and then have that person bring one more person to the next meeting, because that's what's important, everybody's voices and everybody's presence. Because once you start seeing numbers dwindle, people lose interest, and two people can't do it alone. I know, it was very, very difficult, but continue to show up, continue to write letters, and continue to keep the public informed and to keep in communication with your elected officials. Thank you. Yes? Oh, and currently right now, thank you, Maureen. Since the Anelitech issue, they actually wound up moving to Texas. We did actually drive them out of Pearl River. Their headquarters is still based in Pearl River, but they did wind up, because of public pressure, and there were a couple of things that happened with some solid waste permits, which I'd like to talk to everybody here too about eventually, that the DEC, they were proposing to use municipal solid waste in their process to produce benzene and toluene and xylene. But the DEC a couple of years ago had said that they were only allowed to use biomass such as corn stover and corn stalk, that kind of thing. So we were successful in having the DEC not allow municipal solid waste, which I think could be very useful in any legal action that's taken forward, because it is the same region as far as I'm aware of. So, but since then, there's been other environmental polluters in the town of Orangetown. Recently, about a year and a half ago, I started a group called Clean Air for Orangetown with some members of Blauvelt and Orangeburg. So we kind of did a multi-town coordinated effort against fighting noxious odors from a plastic bag manufacturing company that's located on Route 303 in Orangeburg. And you know, that's just something else to be aware of, because it could be happening here as well. So thanks so much.
So we're in Haverstraw, and the plant's in Stony Point. Why did we have Orangetown up here? We have Orangetown up here because their town board passed a resolution opposing New Planet Energy as well. And that's what is needed in this county. So Helen tells us that we have to keep on coming out, and our mayor of West Haverstraw has granted us in 2 weeks from today, on Tuesday, we're going to have a follow-up meeting. And we will begin to become much more action-oriented. There are things that we're going to be asking you to do today. There's an online petition at change.org. We reached 250 people today, over 250 people. That was apparently a plateau that they take us seriously. And there's a petition here that you can sign. That's a paper and pencil petition. But people power matters. And next Tuesday, I invite you all to spend, it's only about 15-20 minutes that they give public comments. I invite you to the Stony Point Town Board meeting. It's held in the Row Building, in the old Letchworth Building. They will take us seriously if we pack that room with no New Planet Energy. And it's only if you come. Honestly, it's wonderful that you came, but now you've learned, and now you should be even more eager to follow through. So we have a meeting next Tuesday. The following 2 weeks, a meeting back here. We'll have your emails with a reminder of these. And there's one other meeting that we owe a lot of thanks to Kristen Savinsky, who has convinced the Environmental Committee of the Rockland County Legislature to hold an Environmental Committee meeting on May 3rd at 7 o'clock, a Thursday, with one topic on the agenda: New Planet Energy. And we're going to go there, and we're going to get the county legislators to also say, from the information that we have, this is out of keeping with what we want to do in Stony Point and Rockland County and Haverstraw. So those are important dates. I'll repeat them before we leave. Now we're going to get, I have one more person, but I'm going to bring up Susan after we have the real nuts and bolts of this. Our environmental lawyer, working with New Planet Energy is a man who knows more about K-Freeze than anybody really should know about. He spent years studying their toxicity, and I want to have Jonathan Levine give us a few points that we can really get some faith that we can stop this legally if we can't stop it any other way.
Thanks, Greg. So, K-Freeze is a hazardous waste site. 56 years ago, a man by the name of Lawrence W. Hoyt was working with a chemical called malononitrile. He inhaled it, and he died. And sometimes, when you can name an individual who is affected by something that's wrong, it's more powerful than hearing about a large group of people who are affected. Just remember that name, Lawrence W. Hoyt, who died a horrible death. Malononitrile exposure basically robs the body of its ability to absorb oxygen, so you slowly die. The cancer causes, there's so many things that were touched on already that, I'm not going to go over at length, but, we should all thank Howard Phillips and the town board of Haverstraw for what they did in response to what happens when a plant goes bad. When K-Freeze went bad and all this remediation was going to take place, the DEC and K-Freeze, the then owners of K-Freeze back in the 80s and 90s, wanted to blame the pollution on the town of Haverstraw. The town of Haverstraw fought that legal battle and fought them to a standstill where they finally backed off. Can you imagine the cost of remediating a hazardous waste site like K-Freeze, lay it upon the backs of the taxpayers of the town of Haverstraw, the towns of Haverstraw and Stony Point? And they had to battle that battle because it wasn't closed correctly, it wasn't investigated correctly. Someone spoke about cancer clusters and the West Haverstraw Elementary School and the comparison between the clusters of cancers that were found there as opposed to the Fields Elementary School. Well, the devil is always in the details in these remediation things and in the investigations. In this case, you had these two separate schools. They were perfectly matched in order to make a comparison. And somehow, in its infinite wisdom, the DEC then decided, no, let's not use Fields, let's use another neighborhood. So that's what takes place. What takes place after the fact, if you don't do something before the fact, is the horror of it all. Because industry happens, society progresses, things are left, and people are harmed by what happened. If we can look forward and prevent harm, then we're better off. A lot of times, for example, if you have trichloroethylene and you know it's polluted an area, and you start looking for it 20 years later, they won't find it because it's already degraded to aluminum dichloride, which is a carcinogen. But you need different machinery and photographic equipment to find it. If you're not looking for it, you won't find it. So these are harms that take place. Someone else mentioned about Suez. Well, this plant's going to take a lot of money, a lot of water. We don't know how much water it's really going to take. And the people who fought the water, the desal plant, should all be congratulated on everything they did, and everybody who came out to do it. But there is no structural procedure in place for stopping that kind of thing. So what if, and remember that Suez was stopped because of need, not because it was the wrong plant or the technology was bad. The Public Service Commission, in facing those thousands of people who came out, determined there was no need for the water. What if this tips it? What if this plant puts us over the need and allows Suez to come back in with the desal plant again? Is that being studied, that eventuality being studied now in this environmental process for this plant? And Greg pointed out in that picture about the 4 lots. You've got several lots. They're only developing 1 or 2 to begin with. Putting off the rest till later is called segmentation. You should remember that word, because it's not permissible in environmental review. You can't just put something off till later, oh, we'll get to it. And that's what's being done here, and it needs to be stopped. And as we go through this, you're going to see, right now we're all concerned about the trucks coming up Route 9W. Well, what if all of a sudden they say, no, we're not going to use trucks? Well, aren't we good now? Well, no, because how else is it going to get there? Well, maybe it'll come up by train. Well, so much for restoration of passenger service on the West Shore. Or how's that going to work with all those oil bomb cars coming down the tracks? It's just, there's another thing that doesn't work, but they can say, oh, well, your worries are gone, no trucks anymore. Or what if it's not trains? What if it's barges? Now we're going to have, we're thankful that the Coast Guard decided not to do the anchorages. What do you see the anchorage that'll take place if you could pile up barges full of garbage? So does Stony Point really need to be the garbage capital of New York State? You know, I don't think so. But even if you were to decide that you wanted to do that and take on this plant, where would the feedstock come from? Somebody brought up the feedstock as plastic. It's going to come from New York City. Well, New York City is planning on removing plastic from its waste stream by 2030. So where are we going to get the plastic? Are we going to have to go hunting for plastic? Which means that this is not a plant that's well thought out in many, many different ways. This is really something that you need to speak to all of your elected representatives about getting the pressure on the DEC to reject this out of hand, because all those yeses up there to the degradation that was going to take place are not fleshed out in advance. So there's an old theory about the immaculate deception, that, you know, you start off with a plan and here it is, and doesn't it look good? And then down the road you find out it got changed and something was left out in the beginning that really would have been meaningful, but oh well. It's not allowed under our secret process. Rockland County has a history of rising up whenever it's faced with a crisis. It did it in the Revolution in 1779, and then in the 80s when they wanted to put a waste-to-energy plant in Haverstraw, thousands of people came out and stopped it. They stopped Con Ed. Think of it, stopped Con Ed from being able to do it. And we then put into place a solid waste management plan, which required bipartisan agreement. The whole county worked on it. And what did we end up with? A 70% recycling rate. Who here remembers all those arguments about where's that mass burn plant going to go? They're going to stick it to us. Wasn't true. We followed the law and we got a good result. We need to do that again. And I would suggest to you that you really get behind your leaders here who are advocating for you, and that you take one more step, and that hasn't been discussed tonight, and that is Rockland needs a water district. We need a 21st century tool. That doesn't mean that we would have to acquire everybody's pipes. It would just give us the legal standing, instead of when something comes up like something that's going to use all this water, instead of us having to beg a court for permission to go into court and speak our piece, we'd have automatic standing. If the PSC or the DEC or anybody else wanted to do anything with respect to our water, and make no bones about it, it's our water. The Constitution says, the waters of the state of New York are held in trust by the government of the state of New York for the people of the state of New York. It's our water, but we don't have standing now. We need standing. We need to convince the county to create a water district the same way we convinced them to create a solid waste district, which ended up with a 79% recycling rate. Thank you for listening, and good luck. We've done it before. We can do it again.
Jonathan talked about the Citizens Committee to develop a solid waste plan. I was fortunate enough to have John Grant appoint me to that committee. And a guy by the name of Mike Check walked into a room of myself and other citizens. And this guy said, we're going to have 0% garbage in Rockland County. We're going to recycle everything. And we looked at each other and said, yeah, right. But he put forward a plan. We were only one of 3 in the entire country who were so vigilant to say, in 1986, we knew that we needed to deal with garbage, and we have an incredible record in Rockland County, and this is an entire step backwards. I'm going to have Susan and I, I'm going to bring her up later, but I want to get to some questions because she's going to be the action with me, and now I'm going to do what I love to do. Hear from what the people want to say. Yes, here we go. Watch me run.
Hi, Lauren Shimko, I live in Tompkins Cove. My question is this, maybe Howie would know better, I don't know. You know how Governor Cuomo has those Empire grants where they get tax, benefits, and they don't have to pay tax for a certain number of years, the companies that come into New York? Is that the case? So if Stony Point says, oh, we're gonna get some tax benefits, it'll go to the town, or go to schools, etc., is that part of this? In other words, are they gonna not have to pay taxes for 10 years or a reduced amount? In other words, not gonna really benefit from it for a very long time.
Well, that's kind of the hidden secret we think a lot of this was about, and a lot of us are questioning whether or not this was a real legitimate thing. Here's the good thing. We saw the Vero Beach example. Vero Beach received over $100 million in federal and state grants. They closed their doors without any federal or state representative knowing about it. Nothing to show, so there's a tremendous scandal going on in Florida right now with that. Based upon that, we sent numerous letters to the DEC, to the governor, to the EPA saying, look, we're afraid there may be a same scenario here where they're after the grant money. But on the other question, yes, there always is incentives from the federal and state government to start up businesses. The state would do that. On this type of a business, I don't know if that would happen with the state since it's such a controversial application, but I do want you to know this, and this is the scary part. What they did to really entice everybody, come on, let's face it, nobody would really want something like this in their community unless there's an enormous benefit. So what they did is they went out and they told everybody, school district, you're going to get $18 million in taxes from us. Stony Point, you're going to get this amount in tipping fees and this amount in taxes. I guarantee you, you would never, ever, ever see that kind of money going to the school district or the town of Stony Point. It's the carrot in front of you know what. And that's the shame of it. But you're right on with those questions because that's what we were all afraid of. There's incentives out there for these people to pay themselves a tremendous amount of money. And then what happens? There has to be guidelines, regulations, requirements that they must meet certain thresholds. But we don't even want to get there because this site is so inappropriate. I should have said before, one of the sites they said to us they had was out in Nevada. So what would you do if you were an elected official? You'd get on the phone, you'd call Nevada. So we tracked down the town, and the gentleman picked up the phone. He happened to be in the building department, and he said to us, he said, look, he goes, I know exactly what you're talking about, but it's not in our town. He goes, those things are out in the middle of the desert. And he said to us, his exact words, I have to tell you, it's the wild, wild west out there. So these things should be out in a desert where you're experimenting. There's no proven science here. We shouldn't be the laboratory rats, that guinea pigs that they're experimenting on. But thanks for that question.
And I was on the phone today with 2 people from Sparks, Nevada, and they said pretty much the same thing. One thing that you need to know, and this is why it's so great to be working with people, TRI is now the technological source of what is called gasification. The Sparks, Nevada plant is 1/12 the size of the proposed New Planet Energy. It's in a desert and it's 1/12 of the size. They also got a $107 million loan from the Department of Energy in about 2011, and they claim to have one building built. But you understand that the bringing in garbage, it's not going to just be recycled. They're trying to create a feed that would, like wood pellets, when you do the wood pellets, and they're going to put those pellets and they're going to gasify it under 750 degrees catalytic heat, run it through huge lengths of pipes in order to generate a breakdown of carbon and hydrogen. It's dangerous, it's untested. The only place that has been tested, this doesn't happen anywhere, it's been tested in a laboratory in North Carolina with an extremely lower amount of garbage moving in. So again, I'm a nerd. I don't know if anybody knows this, man. I'm a college professor, and I love researching, and I really do it well. Myself and my class stopped heavy metals from being burned in Charles Point. I led my class to research and have the Hudson River declared a no discharge zone in 2000. The Clean Water Act was passed in 1972. The beautiful Hudson River was not in the Clean Water Act because they were discharged. There was no way to discharge, not enough sites to discharge. 17 students, 2 professors, got a bill passed in the New York State Assembly, Democrat, New York State Senate, Republican, signed by a Republican, presented to the EPA, and the Hudson River is a river now protected by the Clean Water Act. We can do this, and we will do it, and that we will research this and know more than they know about what they think they know. Yes, Ms. Perrette.
I'm Maureen Perrette. Lauren, I'm glad that you brought that up because that was something I wanted to address. All throughout running last year, these were issues that we were talking about is Rockland County is not an industrial county. It's a bedroom county. We all moved here because this is a bedroom county where we chose to raise our families, okay? We don't want this to become the next Newark, New Jersey. I'm glad Heather Hurley was here tonight because she's been fighting this fight in Orangetown for years with the industrialization that's happening down there. But following also on what Deputy Mayor Dominguez said, here's what we have to really think about and break down. Even if there's not federal tax exemptions, there are deals that are made town by town and county by county with corporations that come in. We are suffering the migrant deal. We're still suffering it, okay? So just because federal tax grants aren't coming down doesn't mean that deals aren't made to withhold taxes being paid by these corporations for 10, 15, or 20 years. Now, let's take what Mr. Dominguez said. We have 400 or 500 trucks on 9W, which is the hub of all of our business, coming through every single day. I know I'll never go down 9W again. Now we're setting up a plant that we just said could very well be defunct due to environmental advances by 2030. So now we've destroyed all of our ratables through all of our small businesses that we have in Haverstraw and Stony Point. We have no more ratables left because who the hell is going to be going on 9W to try to get to these businesses? Then we're going to have a defunct plant sitting at Stony Point that's poisoning us on top of K-Freeze as we have the highest breast cancer rate, not only in the state, but I'm pretty sure in this nation. So for those of you who think that this is going to be something that's going to help us with our tax basis, I'm a Stony Pointer for 21 years, don't be fooled. Don't be fooled. Corporations don't come here because they're not getting a deal. They're getting a deal, and that's why they're coming here. So, of course, aside from the horrific environmental issues, none of us are going to benefit monetarily, so just keep that in mind.
Hi, I'm Jackie Drexler. I'm here with my sister, Josie DiCrescenzo, and a friend. And we've been wondering if this is such an important technology in jet fuel and diesel fuel, why aren't they building it out at the airports?
Good question, and I gotta tell you, in Staten Island is where the transfer of garbage takes place for most of New York, right next to the Fresh Kill landfill that's capped. They're shipping it to Staten Island, and if they wanted to build it, if it theoretically we were gonna help New York City, let New York City help itself and go there and build it. It makes no sense to come up here and ruin our county to build it because some people are wanting to think that they can pull something over our eyes, and it's not gonna happen. Yes, questions? Yes, sir.
It's really more of a statement. I don't know if anybody actually did the math on this. Let's simplify it. If we take them at their word, they're going to be trucking during the night. Let's give them a 10-hour window. Let's say it's 8 at night, they start until 6 in the morning, 10 hours. If you do the math, 400 trucks, that means 40 trucks an hour. Does that make sense? I'm 71. It doesn't make sense? I mean, but does the math make sense? Because if it does, I think it's pretty obvious what the outcome has to be, which is no. And the other thing is, just to put it in perspective, if we started our meeting at 8 o'clock, if you just give me a little slack on that, thanks. I'm a walker when I do this, okay? So, if you do the math quickly, 2-hour meeting, let's say it's 2-hour meeting. Let's say we start at 8 o'clock, ended at 10. In the time we were meeting, that's 40 trucks an hour, that's 80 trucks. That means 80 trucks would have gone past us. But it's far worse, because as this gentleman is pointing out, they're coming the other direction. That's 160 trucks an hour. Ain't no way in hell that's gonna happen.
Not counting the oil, gas that's gonna be flowing out and in. Ben, come on, can you move over here, please? I can't stretch that far. And I wanna get you on the camera, so. That's why I was holding this meeting.
Rob Dessau. Rob Dessau from Stony Point. My question is, I wanted to know how far in the process is this, and how's the DEC handling it?
Well, the DEC had a draft statement, a 32-page draft statement, and they basically said, and it was really wonderful because people in the county planning commissioner, the county health department, a lot of people raised questions and as did the towns, raised question 3 years ago. So they put out a 32-page, here's what this company has to do to answer and for us to give them an approval. This process has been going on for 2 years. The fact that I could not foil a report on traffic, the fact that I call up Mr. Petronelli, who is the DEC administrator for this project, and say, this has been 2 years. You've been talking with these people. We want to know what you're talking about. So, well, we can't really do that because the application is not complete. And until you get a completed application, they claim that you cannot foil them because they're in conversation. You know, talking has to stop. We should not be held without the direct ability to know what they're talking about. The DEC is a governmental agent that we should be able to foil. The process that they're negotiating should be subject to our inquiry. We don't know what's happening. It's been in there for 2 years. So they put it in a black hole and we don't know. So it leaks out. Well, we're not going to go for the whole enchilada. We'll go for the recycling, and then we'll push the gasification. But what you got to remember, the plan, if it's approved, will designate 4 heavy industrial zones in Stony Point, and you can bet that they will be used for the garbage in New York. You've opened the door and will never be able to close it. And that's why we have to fight now. And we can't let this thing just drift another 2 years.
I am Vanessa Saunders. I'm a principal broker of Global Property Systems. I'm a real estate agent. My concern is one of cost on the environment and on the community and prices to homes all the way from the Palisades, Piermont, Grandview, Nyack, and all the way up through Haverstraw and Stony Point. I put this notice of this meeting on my many, actually, Facebook pages, and I got such a pushback from so many people in Stony Point who think that this is going to create jobs, it's going to bring their taxes down. I'm going to say, what are the positives? I could see the negatives personally, and that's why I'm here. But what are the positives? I'd love to hear what there is about that. Thank you.
So I'll give you one example of why these meetings are important. The officials from New Planet Energy came to one of our meetings, at which time our lawyer asked them, where are you getting the water from? Well, we're getting 1.2 million gallons of water. That's what we need. We're going to get it from the Stony Point sewer, and we're going to drill some wells, and we're going to get it from the Cedar Brook pond. Okay, that's all right. So 1.2 million gallons of water to cool this process. And then Jonathan was smart enough to say, well, of course you've got a permit to dump that into the Hudson, right? No. We're going to take the water we use to clean and the chemicals, and we're going to push it back into the Stony Point sewer system, and Stony Point is going to be emptying under their jurisdiction, under their responsibility. They'll be putting the water from New Planet Energy into the Hudson. So you say that this is going to save money? That's a suit waiting to happen. That is a suit waiting to happen. To think that we're foolish enough to allow them to use our water and put it back in, and we're going to be responsible without having any control of what that water is going to be on the outtake. Will it save? I testified before the Senate and the Assembly budget hearings, and it dawned on me, and I think it should dawn on all of us. Only our incredible desperation of having to pay $212 million to pay off a loan based upon the Mirant adjudication. That would be the only thing that would make people stupid enough to even think about having a plant that is so horrible in its conception and what it will do to this county. We've got to come to grips with the $212 million that we owe, because we need to keep our kids educated and we need to give them the programs that they deserve. But the property values, do you think people are going to want to be in Stony Point? So, well, they might put out the idea that the property values will be impacted. I think we all know that if you live next to a dump, your property values are going to go down. It's just common sense.
I just wanted to answer the question about the jobs, and because this comes up all the time, and you know I'm in a community where we can use jobs, but this is going to be a very high intensity. Yes, they're going to have automation, but if you went over to our Rockland County Solid Waste Authority site in Torn Valley, we have a MRF, Material Recovery Facility, and yes, it's automated, but you're going to see about 30 employees. These are the type of jobs. They're pickers. They call them pickers. They're going to be picking things and sorting them out and on a conveyor belt. Those aren't the kind of jobs that we're interested in. Those are the most menial jobs that you can possibly find. And to this gentleman's question about the status of the application, when they went to do the traffic study, they only were going to go south to 9W and 202. Everybody know where Mount Repose is? Our attorney said this is absolutely ludicrous. You can't do a traffic study like that. They were going to go up to Route 210 and Stony Point. He said, that isn't right. So we protested and the DEC agreed with him. So DEC is now making them do a traffic study from the thruway entrance into Orangetown, all the way up 9W, 202 going all the way out to Pomona, and in Stony Point going all the way up to the Bear Mountain Circle. But these are the things that we need to fight them on. This is why we need to counteract what they want to do. They want to do the minimal amount possible, when we need for them to really do everything. And that was very interesting, that statistic that the one young lady from the Sierra Club stated before. 10.5 tons of toxic material into the air. Think about that. 10.5 tons going up into the air. These smokestacks are not high. It's going to come down in the same proximity. So these are the things that we really need to fight about. This is so inappropriate for this site. Thank you.
Howie, there's a myth that, don't worry about New York, Rockland County is going to supply the garbage. You want to respond to that myth?
We right now have a contract with the sanitary landfill in upstate New York. Now that contract runs out in a couple of years. We're looking to extend it. But we're not going to be going to this site. It's just completely wrong. If anybody's telling you they're going to be taking New York City garbage, they can't. Not only that, we can't understand with New York City, because when we contact New York City, they're in some very long-term contracts. So there's a real dilemma here about what they're saying. I tell you, there's so many unanswered questions about what's going on with this. But the Rockland County Solid Waste Authority is not going to be bringing Rockland County garbage to this site.
Other question? You got a question? Can you come over here, please? Thank you. I'll meet you halfway here.
So who is in favor of this? How did this even happen?
Stony Point.
Is Stony Point wanting this? What, do you guys want this to happen? Is that what's...
So what do we do? Let's get into what... How many people from Stony Point are here? Well, that's a lot of people. How many people are going to the town board meeting next Tuesday night? Thank you. That's how we stop this. That's how we stop this, once and for all. Yes, question, where are you?
Thank you, Greg. Hi, good evening. My name is Shri Venkatasan. I'm a pharmaceutical scientist, so I know BS science when I see it, when I hear it, and I work with numbers all day. So I know that numbers can lie. Statistics, you can make statistics say what you want to say and suppress things with statistics too. How many of us remember back in 1987, how many people died from the Union Carbide plant in Bhopal, India? The official number is 3,787. Innocent lives, they didn't know what hit them overnight, okay? The actual number is far beyond that, 16,000. And those people are still injured. They're still suffering. We're gonna have how many trucks a day? And we're going to make how many tons of material a day? And we're going to have hydrogen cyanide as a byproduct, right?
That's what they had in Florida.
So we know what any molecule with cyanide in it is. How can a sane person even allow something like that without proper scrutiny, right? How is this a green project? Land pollution, air pollution, water pollution. I just can't fathom that they are calling this green. And you know, I have a home and I have a good family because I care for it. I live in a community and I'm here, I'm showing up because I care for my community. I think we all should care for what's happening here. Yes, we care. Yes, we can, and yes, we care. Okay? Thank you.
Greg's sabotaging me. I actually did want to add to something that Greg has said earlier about the Stony Point Town Hall meeting. He did not give the time. If you wish to come, the meeting starts at 7 o'clock. If you wish to speak, you should be there around 6:45 to start putting your name in the book to sign up to speak. I hope that as many people of my fellow Stony Point residents as possible will be there and will be speaking. I did it last meeting. It's not that scary. And I also want to encourage people, empower yourselves as much as possible. You don't have to rely on the people who've been speaking today for all of this information. You know, as wonderful people as they are, I was able to find a ton of information on the internet myself from reputable sources, especially about what went on in Vero Beach. You can look that up yourselves, learn as much as you can. And then I wanted to say something about, one more point on the jobs issue. From what I did find on the internet, I found a few comments from former employees that I commented on at that meeting last week. And they probably, you know, if this is going to be anything like that previous plant, they probably would hire some skilled people. But these will probably be people with engineering degrees in waste remediation or things like that. Not exactly the most common of jobs, and if they hire 10 or so people at that point, the odds that they're going to find any of them in Stony Point or Haverstraw is probably close to nil. So when they mention skilled jobs, if they do mention that, that doesn't mean it's going to be anything that your son or daughter is going to be able to apply for. And I had one more question for anyone up there who can answer it. In Vero Beach, New Planet Energy was working with another company. INEOS, I believe, is what they're called. And I've heard some comments from them in the references that I mentioned finding that, okay, they didn't have anything to do with the management of the plant, basically washing their hands of the whole thing. I don't buy that for a number of reasons, but I'd like to hear what if you have any other information on that, on what their exact relationship was and what their level of responsibility was and should have been. So thanks.
It's the same relationship that TRI will have with New Planet Energy. They are the cash cows, and they get money from investors, and they try to sell investors, and they sell investors on the technology that is out there. TRI in Baltimore is the group now that says it can successfully turn municipal solid waste, which is a very difficult flow, into a gasification process. And I got to tell you something. I read about 132 pages in the past couple days of a loan agreement that the Department of Energy made to the Fulcrum Bioenergy, which is a company similar to New Planet Energy in Nevada. And again, you know, Senator comes in, I gotta give money to my community, $107 million loan. The plant that they're doing is only 1/12 as big as our plant that is being proposed, and they only been able in 7 years to build one building for that $107 million. So that's the kind of relationship. And Inos was the second largest chemical company in the world. They're located in Switzerland, and they weren't able to pull it off. So New Planet Energy, when they came, oh yeah, they weren't good enough. So they found another group that thinks they're good. That's fine. Let them do it in the desert, not among the people of Rockland County. It's just too strange. Yeah, Susan, come on, right? This is somebody who I've worked with incredibly well, and she's is now president of the Rockland Citizens Action Network. And we work hard to make and get people to participate. And she'll give us some suggestions too, how we might participate.
Thank you, Greg. Well, it's good to see quite a few of our members are here. A couple of our steering committee members are here, Jerry and Debbie and Jordan. So we have spent the last 15 minutes, Steve, mobilizing, getting organized, and we've got several different action groups. One is environment, and it's been working closely with the Sierra Club, 350.org, the New Jersey chapter, and we've also got a health group, early voting or voting rights group. So we're getting better at mobilizing people. We've built an audience of almost 1,000 people on our Facebook page. We have a big mailing list, and we're good at showing up when we need people to show up. So so the first thing is, as I look around here, I'm glad to pledge. We have a monthly meeting that we get 40 or 50 people show up in a poorly attended meeting. We meet at libraries and other public venues around the county every month. We have a standing meeting. It's the third Thursday of every month. Actually, this time it's next Thursday. We moved it back a week, but so it'll be on the 26th if you want to come to the Blauvelt Library. It's at 6:45. Join our Facebook page, because what we're going to do to help this cause is dedicate a part of every monthly meeting to this, to use that time, a half an hour per meeting, use that time to keep organized, to keep everybody informed, to keep everybody focused on the next steps that we need to take. The basics are getting the word out is number one, and that's part of it is coming to these meetings, bringing a friend to every meeting, bringing more friends, sharing the word with your neighbors, with small businesses that you frequent, with your church members on the weekend, your Rotary Club, students that you know, senior citizens groups that you know. Everywhere you go, just have a stack of leaflets, flyers, wear a pin, bring it up in conversation at the grocery store while you're waiting online, or at the pharmacy, wherever you are. You know, your neighbors will start to say, oh yeah, New Planet Energy, I know. But then you'll know you're getting the work done. So that's number one. Help spread the word. We should do bumper stickers. Bumper stickers, leaflets,
They'll be ready in a week.
They'll be ready in a week, okay. Petitions. I think we recognize how effective petitions are. Part of the beauty of petitions is that those numbers add up, and elected officials get a little nervous when they see that many people signing up for something. And when they get nervous, I'm thinking more, at this point about the state level, because there's more influence from the governor's office on the DEC than you can imagine. That's what we learned from the DSOW. So when we have the support of our local elected officials who are helping us to do the right thing, and then we make a lot of noise, and we submit letters to the editor in the newspaper, talk to our neighbors, put out bumper stickers, and submit petition signatures. That's the kind of thing that the governor's office doesn't want to see. They want everything to be quiet and smooth and under the radar. So when we put this on the radar, we win. that last part leads me back to the press. The more press coverage we can get of this. So write letters to the editor, write a community view. Just send an email to the Journal News and suggest this for a story. They haven't done a story on this, I think, since last July. That's a long, long time. We are due for a good story on this. Again, the governor's office keeps an eye on that. Our Facebook page is Rockland Citizens Action Network, and we will be pushing out stories about this and keeping you all posted on every meeting opportunity, every opportunity to make your voices heard, and then you can use it to share with your Facebook friends, and that's how this becomes strong and loud, and we can do this. Thank you.
We also have an incredible amount of information. There's one woman here that I want to, is Susan Hallier, sure, can come in? Is Susan in the house? Susan Hallier from Nyack News Online. Susan, come on up here. This woman wrote a story and put it online about investigating the Vero Beach site. Come on up, Susan. And it is such an incredibly well-written story. This is what got so many of us interested. You can find it on nonewplanet.org. You can find every application that has been submitted. Everything that we know is on that website. You can download everything. Come on. And the other thing, there are signs back there. There are petitions back there. The signs are free because our printer misspelled planet. We're not no new plant. We like plants. We want planet, no new planet. We only have one planet. We like our planet. Susan.
So, yeah, I got interested in this it was around last spring, and I did a lot of research on it. So it's at nyacknewsandviews.com, which is a weekly, Nyack News Without the Paper, I think is the byline. I write a weekly column called Earth Matters on a variety of topics, and this is one of them, and we are due for another story, so that's why I'm here, and I'll be following this as much as I can. I'm trying to get an interview with the people out in Sparks, Nevada. Their latest is as you said, they put one building up. I went in and found a lot of documents from the county out there in Sparks. And the Fulcrum Bioenergy people have been there since 2007 or 8. And they've amassed hundreds of millions of dollars in financial backing. And they're just finishing the building to process the waste itself. They're right near a waste management facility. That's the company, Waste Management, landfill. And but the building that will make the biofuel is not scheduled to open until 2020. So, I'm writing to them and calling them and saying, what are you doing with the processed garbage for 2 years? I don't know. And then they're not telling me, they're not getting back to me. I don't know why. But, I think all you need to know really is take a look at the New Planet Energy website. It has no address. It has no phone number. It has one of those little contact forms, that you fill out, which I've filled out several of. And they don't get back to you. So, if you're going to, make a millions and millions of dollars investment of your land, air, and water, and the company has no phone number and no address. Iffy is the word I use. So I will be working on this now, and I'm glad to have the resources you're talking about to follow up.
Thank you. And one thing you should know, 2020, they're proposing the gasification. Same company that's doing purportedly the Stony Point, they are now saying that in the gasification they're going to be making a liquid crude. And lo and behold, there's a refinery close by that they're going to take the crude, and the crude is going to become a high-level fuel, potent enough for jet fuel. All I look at that is 4 different places on Stony Point, and I'm thinking recycling, gasification, refining, got a big hole in the ground, dump the ash in Tilcon. Anybody else? Okay, yes.
I just want to say, some people are leaving, so there are petitions to sign along. If you are leaving, there are petitions to sign along the back table and the table where you signed in, and also feel free to take a lawn sign if you want, or a smaller sign to put in a business window, your home window. So before you leave, sign up. Thank you.
And change.org is where you could sign the petition online. We're gonna have 2 more questions because we wanted to get out at 8:30. We're running 10 minutes late.
I'll keep it quick. My name is Joe Chardulo from New City. Follow up to the who's for this. Maybe briefly take us through the process of where the company's going to that, they're saying, oh, yeah, let's continue this because, when you brought up the question up front with the all the yes answers, that was the state EPA?
That was them responding to a series of questions by the DEC. So everything, is it going to impact?
Right, that was the state?
No, that was...
Or federal?
No, that was, those questions were asked, and the yeses were responses by MBC Construction, which is owned by Mr. McGee, and New Planet Energy. They were the ones who were submitting those yeses to those questions.
Right, but it was the state department? Right. Right. Because really, when they should be the ones when they see all those yeses where the answer should be no. It came back yes, yes, yes. Their answer right there should be no, sorry, this is not going to work, end of story. But that's why I want to know, why does this keep going? Because it makes no sense that, who's pushing this besides if it's Stony Point, someone else has to be pushing this.
I'm going to be, let me just say, I think the town board of Stony Point, it's now all Republican. That's right. But they are good people. This is not a question about their intent. It's a question about a company who came in and sold them a bill of goods, and maybe there is a person on that board who I'm always referred to when I ask any questions about New Planet Energy, Tom Basile, who has been really the motivator and who's been campaigning for an office saying, I can bring development to Stony Point. Look at what I've done. So don't blame the council people. I think if we can show a reasonable defense of this plant, that this is not what we want, it is a nonpartisan attempt. We need to include everybody as citizens to stop this. Let's not get partisan in this. Let's get proactive and let's make this thing work. Go ahead.
55 years. And,
Ed, right?
yeah, Ed Andrews.
You hold
I
the
don't see
microphone.
any Stony Point
Microphone.
I don't see any Stony Point councilmen here. So if it's nonpartisan, where are they?
I can tell you that Tom, Supervisor Monahan, he would have come, but he had prior plans. I invited all the council people to come. I did it at a meeting. They have their willingness to come or not come.
I have another question.
No comment. Greg?
I have another question.
Greg, take the microphone when you talk, please.
Microphone?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I came in and this is my first meeting. I heard that they are going through zoning. So I'm assuming
Can't hear you.
I'm assuming it's the Planet Energy, okay, that is going through zoning. Well, don't they have to go through planning first?
Okay, that's exactly the right point. And what happened was that the planning board gave up its right to the DEC, but included in that plan is a proposal. They had signed off on a proposal to take 39 L1 and L2 lots and make 4 heavy industrial zones in Stony Point. They made an action. They acted already. And if the DEC approves it and we can't fight them in court and they win, they've already made a decision. Sorry. Without telling a whole lot of people that they were doing that either. All right, last question, all right? Because we want to go home and we only have the place to 8:30.
If they made this decision without having appropriate information because they were lied to by Planet Energy, wouldn't that then go back to voiding the agreement that they had decided to go forward with?
I know the answer to that, but I'm going to let my lawyer answer that. It's a 78, Article 78. We have recourse under Article 78 to challenge that. And we also have, there's going to be a hearing, we also have to challenge that. If they say yes, we have a chance to challenge. All right, we're here for person-to-person answers. Take things. Where are you going to be next Tuesday? Stony Point. Where are you going to be May 3rd? Rockland County Legislature, and we're going to demand that they put a resolution out saying no new Planet Energy in Rockland County. We love North Rockland.